All right, ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? This is your host, Brandell from the ISO Boom podcast. And today is actually a special day because I have a very special guest. This is a gentleman that I've been following for a couple months now, actually. I've been watching you longer than you think, to be honest, because of my own conservative values. And I try to have these conversations, whether it's online or in person. So a lot of the things that you've been doing for the neighborhood and for the city have been capturing my eye and obviously the eyes of others. Without further ado, I want to introduce New York City Council District 45 Challenger, Elijah Diaz. Elijah, welcome.
Yes.
Lovely to have you on the show, my brother. It's actually an honor. And yeah, just formally introduce yourself, let everybody know who you are, and why are you in this race? Why do you find it important to be a part of this?
Yeah, it's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me. My name is Elijah Diaz. I'm running for City Council District 45, and I'm in this race basically to start a new chapter of politics in Brooklyn, New York. And the reason why I think it's important is there's a lot of people that have inherited generational, I would say generational curses, so to speak. And what do I mean by that? I mean that politicians for decades have now been promising the same thing that we're seeing today. We're seeing a lack of affordable housing. We're seeing a lack of clean streets. We're seeing an uptick in crime every single year. So there's all of these problems that really haven't been solved. And I think it begins with the problem that we haven't had a leader. We haven't had somebody to take the reins and say, hey, listen, I'm going to be out there. And from my perspective and the perspective of a lot of people I speak to, it's people sitting on lavish chairs, lavish wine and dining, and they use our taxpaying dollars in order to facilitate their own needs. So that's why I'm running, because I really feel that I'm the difference maker in that. I'm not a politician. I'm a leader. I'm planning on getting out in the streets, and city council is the perfect position for me right now to be able to do that. It's the closest to the people. It's very community centered and very, very centered as far as geographic location. So I'm running where I grew up my entire life, where I know everybody, and I'm looking to continue doing the best when I get in there.
That's good, man. And just to pick up from what you said, were you always interested in I don't know, being this? I guess my question is, was this a passion that you've always had? Was this something that maybe, growing up where you grew up, you started to notice these things? And obviously, as you get older, you start to understand why certain things happen and certain, because even for me, like right now, I live in Brooklyn, but I grew up in the Bronx. I grew up in the South Bronx. And in the South Bronx, even to this day, everything you just mentioned happens there as well. Crime, people that's knocking on your door saying that they're willing to help you, that they want to give you access to all these programs. And years go by, 5, 10 years, and you don't really see a lot of change. I guess my question is this something, where does this passion come from and when did it start?
Yeah, I believe that it wasn't always a passion. Actually, it wasn't a passion at all until about a year ago. And it was really the second administration of Trump. Now, you could hate him, you could love him, but you can't deny the facts that when you take a look at his candidacy and what he did, being an outsider coming into politics. And again, I'm not going to debate policy here because I know
Yeah.
it's very sticky when you talk about these things. But
Yeah.
he came in with no political experience, and he came in and did that job. He helped millions and millions of Americans to this day and still continuing on. And again, I'm not going to debate here, but that's where I saw the man got shot. The man won and then lost an election, potentially having it stolen from him. And now that I'm seeing the evidence, I see
Yes.
that's a lot more likely that it did happen. But just seeing that all of the hardship that he went through, it reminds me of someone like myself. And mind you, he's a billionaire, but I
Right.
look at it from the perspective of an American dream of you can do anything you want in this country, whether you're an immigrant, whether you're born here, 15th generation in America, it doesn't matter. You can do whatever you want in this country and have that opportunity. But it really didn't start with that. But that was really the motivating factor in saying, hey, I'm going to run for office and to show that I can actually do this. But early in life, I've been blessed to understand that my purpose in life is to serve people. When I was 19, I started a small business, a marketing agency for small businesses, because I saw the need that people like myself who don't have the capital to start up, who have extreme hardships in bootstrapping their own operation, in marketing. There's a whole slate of things that are hard for small business owners. So I wanted to serve small business owners by giving an affordable solution to a lot of their sales problems. And then through that, it was really a segue into, okay, let me get deeper into the community. How can I use my marketing expertise, by the way, self-taught marketing expertise, and how could I generate cash flow for other small businesses while also doing it for myself? Through that, it was serving people, meeting people, understanding where different cultures are coming from, where people from different backgrounds, different areas, and really just gathering all of this information. And now that I've been exposed to many different demographics, I'm very confident that I can serve anybody and everybody in my district.
It's funny you say this because I don't mean this to just mention me, because I feel like my, I guess you could say, political exposure, you could say, started the same way. I was somebody who I wasn't really into politics at all. Coming from the Bronx, a majority of people from the Bronx are African American,
Yeah.
Latinos, and things like that. So we're programmed to believe and to think that certain things work a certain way. And very similar to you, during COVID, I had the blessing to be a part of a network marketing company.
Mm.
And we got to travel and do certain things. And when I went to states like Arizona, Texas, Florida, which are more conservative leaning states, and I got to meet people, it eliminated a lot of the rumors that you would hear coming from New York, that those places you have all types of racist people and things like that.
Mm.
And just that little realization sparked everything else for me. Whereas, like, even when I was in Texas, I always say this to all my friends. When I was in Texas, I actually was walking in a mall in Fort Worth.
Mm.
And the one thing that stood out to me was the fact that everybody, literally from all ages, all backgrounds, white, black, Latino, everybody were walking around with guns in their waist.
Yeah.
But they were so respectful, so nice. And I did not like, it was like a culture shock to me. I was like, yo, like, what, somebody's lying to me now. So it drove me to look into all these things. And then in the company that I was in, we was learning a lot about financial education, right?
Mm.
So even like how the dollar works, how it moves, taxes and stuff like that. I started to learn more of these things. I'm like, something doesn't add up, right? Something's not adding up from what I said earlier about being from the Bronx and seeing all this help available and nothing really changing. So that kind of sparked my political ideology now, whereas I'm leaning more conservative. I always say I don't have any affiliation to a specific party. And we'll get into that in a little bit about the New York Republican Party, which I have thoughts about. And I want to hear what you have to say about it.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people these days are having the same realization, even if they're still being in denial, that Donald Trump winning his first term, even I remember everybody saying, oh, this guy's crazy, he has access to this red button that's gonna just
Help
blow
the
up half the world. Yeah, blow up half the world and stuff like that. And even at that time, I wasn't really paying attention to any politics. And being on Facebook, being from the Bronx, certain things, even if you don't pay attention to it, reaches you. All the things he would say in his speeches, and everybody getting one side of the story but not the other. But then when COVID happened and I'm having all this realization, I think back to Trump's first term. I'm like, yo, I don't remember there being a lot of panic the way that there is now. Obviously, there was COVID and stuff like that. But what I'm trying to say is, when you compare like everything that everybody was saying to what actually happened, there was a big disconnect, right? There wasn't even the topic of people having more money in their pockets. That was something that I noticed, because when I looked at my taxes of those years, I'm like, man, I was able to recuperate way more money than I do now.
Yep.
So I think for most New Yorkers, I think that realization is there. I still do believe that there's a lot of denial going on because we're such a blue city,
Mm.
that say just being a conservative, right? Just looking for conservative leaning information, which is why I even started this podcast, to give everybody a place where they can at least start looking for it, is very hard, and it's very easy to be discouraged. Being from your experience, what have you seen different? I know you said that your political thoughts started recently, but what, I guess, compared to before being interested in what you're doing and now, what is some of the difference in conversations that you've been having? Because I have seen you walk around talking to people. You do a lot of speaking events as well. So, what are some of the conversations that you realize that you're having a lot of, and some of the topics that most people mention these days when it comes to things that are important to them?
Yeah, listen, even as a candidate in this very blue district, the conversations that I'm having really stem, oh, You're a Republican. Oh, you're Trump. Trump is this. Trump is that. Trump is the reason this. Trump is the reason that. And New York really has that Trump phobia that everything is his fault.
And
Nothing
he's
is your
from here.
fault.
He's
Nothing is
from here.
your fault. Yeah, and he's from here, right?
Yeah.
Nothing is your fault. You're not going out and learning or let me restart. You're not going out and learning the tax code that all the billionaires and all the millionaires use, that everybody at every single level, whether you're investing $1 or $1 billion, can use. You're not going out there and educating yourself and learning how to open a business to where you can be your own bank. You can be your own policy. You can be your own insurance. All of that is a possibility, but it's Trump's fault. All of the legislation that has happened in New York over the past how many decades have been democratically run. Even when we had a Republican mayor, who was the majority, the Democrats, and
Yeah.
it's that balance of power that we see at the state level, local level, federal level. So those are the conversations that I'm still having. And again, it's sad to say, but it's one side that, and then I realized that on the other side, people aren't as politically ignorant as they make it seem. They just don't want to talk about it. Democrats know that the Democratic Party is not for them. However, they're still going to do it because nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to fight
Yeah.
against. Nobody wants to fight against the common. Oh, my neighbor's a Democrat. Okay, I'm a Democrat. Nobody wants to really educate themselves because they're so in tune with their own lives that they feel a loss of hope. And I think they're completely correct for that. It's a human nature
Right.
to be nervous about things that you don't, to be told things that you want to hear. But I think the important thing that people realize as I'm having these conversations with people and I try to speak to them and say, listen, I'm running under the Republican Party. And I know we'll get to parties in a second, but I'm running under the Republican Party. What you don't realize about that is that there's only Democrat, Republican, and then you have two of the smaller parties that would basically be an irrelevance in the mind of voters. Oh, you only got two sides of the same coin to flip here. Which way do you want to go? My personal standing on politics has nothing to do with the way that I can serve you and your needs and your family's needs, whether you're conservative, liberal, libertarian, progressive, doesn't matter. It really comes down to I'm the candidate. I'm not a reflection of my party. I'm not a reflection of any establishment. I'm a reflection of my own reputation, my own cognizance, and my own experience and my own leadership. And that's what you're voting for. You're not voting for a Republican. You're voting for Elijah Diaz on November 4th.
That's good, man, because like I said, and let's get into the topic about the party, because I myself have been, you could say, critical of the party for maybe not for the same reasons as everybody else. But even with Donald Trump winning his second term, everything that the city has been through for the last couple of years during COVID, and I'll ask you about your opinion about the vaccines, but just the vaccine mandate and just the lockdowns and everything. Like I do believe this city still has not yet recovered from that.
Yeah.
And whether I'm not entirely an anti-vaxxer, but I do believe in knowing the information and transparency, right? That's what I advocate for, and that's what I ask for. And that's me from my politicians or whoever decides to represent me. So my critic about the Republican Party is, and maybe you can correct me or you can push back if you feel like, is with Donald Trump winning and the guy came to the Bronx, right? That didn't happen since Ronald Reagan, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, where he came to the Bronx and he didn't go to Yankee Stadium. He didn't go to Westchester. He came to Crotona Park. Like I grew up and I went to school in that area, right? Like I could think back, I could probably think back of one or two fist fights that I had in that park. You know what I'm saying? But he did it. Obama didn't do it. Joe Biden didn't do it. I don't even remember the last time a presidential candidate or any federal political figure came to, besides maybe AOC, but she only shows up for certain things, that came to the Bronx to talk directly to the people. So I'm glad you mentioned that because I was already on the Trump train before that. But that right there was like, yeah, this guy is the one. So I do feel like the New York Republican Party, and I know that there's different, as you said, there's different sections of it. They don't all fall under the same umbrella. But I do feel like the New York Republican Party isn't doing enough to get, let's say, for example, the New York City Council. And you could correct me if I'm wrong. There's about 51 seats. Maybe like 48 or 47 of them are all Democrats. You have some independents, but yeah, they're basically all Democrats that mostly lean on the socialist side. And with Donald Trump winning and with everything that he's able that he was able to do. And with the way that he ran his campaign, I would think that would be the perfect blueprint for somebody. And I only see maybe you. There's another candidate, Ramsel Florian, I believe his name is, or Ramsel. I know he's running a very effective campaign. And there's a couple people that I can't really say the name off the top of my head, which I'll ask you about later on. But I don't see a lot of movement. I don't see the Republican Party bringing candidates such as yourself to challenge some of these seats. Because I do believe that some of these city council members, Shai Osei, for example, I don't know if I'm butchering his name, but Shai is one of them. The council member that represents my district, Sandy Nurse, who's one of the biggest Marxists in city council, they're not doing anything. They're not. And that's one thing I would say about Democrats, especially socialists. They're very good at mobilizing, right? Even with Mamdani and the way that he was able to beat Cuomo at the primary, it was basically knocking on doors and talking to people face to face. Now, you can sit here and argue that half of the things he's talking about is a lie, which I do believe that's the case. But the point is that he did it. He was out there. He was doing the work. So what is your, and I'm not going to put you in a position to butcher the party that you're a part of, but in your honest opinion, what is something that New York Republicans, whether it's now or in the future, can do better in order to change things around? Because quite honestly, man, unless they're willing to put in the hard work and they're willing to do what you're doing and a few others, this is just going to stay the same. This is not going to change for anybody. So what is your opinion on that?
I think you got the perfect person to ask this question. I'm seen as the renegade of the Republican Party right now.
Oh,
Yeah, I'll keep it real because I usually keep
mm-hmm.
it, and the Republican Party is not going to vote for me. The people are going to vote for me. The Republican Party in New York is non-existent. In New York, it's a uniparty, and that is my official position. Where the Republican Party purposely does nothing. It's not an accident. It's not a, oh, we don't have the money, we don't have the resources, we don't have the this. It's not any of those excuses. The Republican Party simply doesn't want to come out and support candidates and support the community. I myself am not Republican endorsed. That's what a lot of people know. I had to fight my way to get on the ballot. The incumbent that I'm going up against, Farrah Lewis, took me to the Kings County Supreme Court and tried to get me off the ballot 3 times.
Wow.
On the Republican line, on the conservative line, and then when that failed, went to the appeals court, which is the highest court, lost there, and I remain on the ballot to this day. She got my opponent off, though. I was supposed to have a Republican primary, first time in this district, and that didn't happen. But during that whole incident, not a single call from the Republican Party, not a single call. Hey, are you okay? Hey, do you need anything? Hey, we're going to come support you at court. Hey, we're going to.
Wow.
Simple things.
Right.
2-minute texts. Nothing. Not a single word. I don't even have any of the chairman's number. I don't have anybody in the establishment's number. Maybe some on Facebook, but simply it's a lone train here. Now, I got to say, the Brooklyn Conservative Party has been nothing but great to me. Outstanding, coming out and supporting my events, coming to my fundraisers, and really getting their boots on the ground with me out there in the community as well. I really want to shout them out and commend them for that and thank them for that. But that's really what it is. I'm not too familiar with the Working Families Party. Just in comparison to everything, all of the other parties in New York, including the Democrats and the DSA, the Republican Party is non-competitive. They purposely do not compete. So what's the point here? When your own candidates have to fight their way on the ballot and then get scrutinized for being a Republican in the first place, what's the point? You even have conservative-minded people running as Democrats. Why? Because it's easy to win, or it's easy. So you're seeing this uniparty work in both ways, where you're not trying to compete. You're just saying, oh, Democrat, but it's all for show. I'm not with the political theater. So I'm part of the new generation that's standing up and saying, listen, we want Caribbeans in Flatbush to be represented in the Republican Party. We want Africans in the South Bronx and Harlem to be represented in the Republican Party. We want Italians, Russians, Jews, Christian, Muslim, anybody. We want these people to be a part of the Republican Party. Why? Because we stand for these values and we stand for the Constitution of the United States of America, where everybody came together to unite under one Constitution, one rule of law for the American dream. It's the whole branding of this country, and we've lost that in New York specifically, but across the country. I feel like it's a dying sentiment, where the American dream is no longer possible. Whether you're a Democratic voter, Republican voter, you don't vote for anybody, it's not achievable. And I'm willing to go against whoever is against that. It doesn't matter about party to me. And there's going to be a big splash. I'll tell you, I'm going to allude to something here. there's going to be a big splash after November, win or lose this election. And that's all I'll say on that.
I'll be honest, man. I think I can see that big splash at the horizon. Like I said, the political landscape in New York City, whether you lean left or right, has changed. A lot more people are speaking about it. I've always said, even to friends or people that I've talked to online, we don't live in the same times that we used to 10, 20 years ago, where let's just say, for example, you can say something at one of your speaking events and people would just take your word for it. We live in an age of information where, you can't be, just for example, you can't be openly racist and expect nobody to see it. You can't be into your self-interest, let's just say, and nobody will be able to see it. And I do believe that part of the reason why New York is where it's at is because people just don't know where to look. Even when you look at the local media, right? Like my family's Dominicans. The TV in the living room was like the gospel, Telemundo, Univision, those channels. And it's, yeah, they're basically liberal. It's like Spanish version of CNN. So do understand why somebody as yourself, somebody that's young, somebody that's new blood, and somebody that's gaining momentum, they won't even give you a chance to sit on an interview. Who knows? Maybe in the future that'll change. Hopefully it does. But people don't have a fair shot at looking for other options besides what they have. So do you believe, and this I'll end this topic here and then we'll go on to the next one. Do you believe that, everything that's going on with the Republican Party, not having the candidates to challenge certain seats, do you believe that's because they've lost the confidence because maybe they've lost so many times that they're just like, man, you know what? It doesn't even matter what we do. We're just here, like you said, a uniparty. And I want to mention, I did see, I don't want to butcher her name, but I did see a council member from Staten Island. She's a Republican. I believe her first name is Ina. And I did, yes, yes. And I did see some people accuse her of being a rhino and posting pictures of her being at like George Floyd protests and things like that. So a lot of people would say that she's a fake conservative. I have another guy who actually goes out there in the streets and confronts these council members, and he tells her to her face, like, listen, you're a fake Republican. You actually work with Democrats. And I'm not so into her politics so much to agree. But what I'm trying to say is everything that you've mentioned just now confirms that. As far as what we can do, as far as what responsibilities we have as New York City residents, because at the end of the day, this is the future of our kids, of our family. You have a lot of people that come from other countries, whether they've came 30, 40 years ago, and that they prioritize certain issues more than others. That's that. And hopefully that changes. I don't see it changing anytime soon. Even the mainstream media doesn't really get the same type of influence that they used to. Everything is moving to streaming now. A lot of commentators are losing their jobs and moving into podcasting in order to save the little bit of influence that they have. So again, times are changing. But I do believe that for New York to maybe, for lack of a better word, completely flip red as far as city council, it would take at least maybe 5 to 10 years. Do you believe that?
I think it's going to take longer than that. You got to look at the numbers. And what I mean by the numbers is there's two things that initially come to mind. It's money and quantity of voters. See, quantity of voters are going in one direction. Trump significantly pushed a lot of election districts right. Now you see, okay, there's a little bit more morale going in that direction. Now moderate Democrats and Republicans have a choice to make. It's which side do you want to go on? Do you want to go on the Mamdani train or do you want to go on the Trump train? Those are
Yeah.
the two faces of the party right now. Let's see. So again, the money automatically is flowing in the direction of the Democrats. That's no if and
Yeah.
about it. Even on the Republican side, or whatever side you want to say, it's flowing on that side. But the influence is shifting in the opposite direction. So now, if you have an abundance of people who are going to vote Republican, you're going to see, all right, maybe the money starts shifting a little bit towards the middle. You know what I mean?
Agree.
There's a lot of different factors, but I don't think 5 to 10 years. I think it's going to take a lot longer than that. Just with the way we're going right now, we're going for all out socialism. So we're having a new extreme and it's catching on very quickly. So yeah, 5 to 10 years, I don't think that's realistic for New York City. As far as New York State, maybe a lot of people from here, conservatives or moderates over here, move upstate, Long Island, a little bit different.
Yeah.
New York City, absolutely not 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. And so let's get into the topic of socialism, because that is something, if you look at some of the content that I post, that is something that I do my best to educate people on, because I do believe that a lot of the things that happen in New York City happen on purpose. You did mention that people sometimes are too caught up on making sure that they have food on the table, making sure the bills are paid because everything is just so expensive in New York City. And I think that's on purpose because it drives you away from paying attention to certain things that would prevent you from falling into a deeper hole like socialism. Even if when you look at things on a worldly scale, somebody like Javier Milei, he's not he's the president of Argentina. He just recently won his election, I believe last year. He's somebody who won his election with, and I could be wrong, but he's somebody who won an election by not putting so much money into social media ads, right? He was literally going around speaking to people, confronting the media out there in Argentina, and the people were just so tired of what was going on there that he won by a landslide. Even with Bukele from El Salvador, before he came to the scene, El Salvador was one of the most unsafest places in the world, and he did so well his first term that they voted him into a second one. A lot of people were criticizing him for being so tough on crime and on the gangs and stuff like that, but it got him elected again by a landslide. So when I see those examples and I look at a place like New York City, right? At the end of the day, we're the media capital of the world. My opinion, that might have changed in the last couple of years because of everything that's going on, but I do still believe that we are the capital of the world, right? Everything that happens in New York gets put into a world scale. We represent a lot of smaller countries, right? Because so many people migrate to the city. But in the topic of socialism, my personal opinion is I believe that because people don't know the history of socialism, it's very easy to get caught up into the Mamdanis of the world, where he's promising all these things where if you just look at the details of the thing that he's promising, you'll realize that he's not even responsible for that. But even the free buses, right? He's a New York Assembly member right now who's able to put some type of bill in place to get that going. And if he's not able to do it as an assembly member, what makes you think he's going to do it as a mayor? Right. But these details are very easy for people here to just, I guess you could say, go over their heads. Just recently, I had a back and forth with Mero. I don't know if you're familiar. He's a comedian. He had a show, Deezus and Mero, a couple years ago, which I used to watch all the time. I'm still a fan of his comedy. But I had a back and forth with him because he was basically walking around Washington Heights, which is where my family's from, with Mamdani and just telling everybody to vote for this guy. This guy's gonna solve all of their problems. And mind you, Washington Heights is a African American and Latino and somewhat Jewish community. And somebody coming from Washington Heights, you see the small businesses closing down and opening the big businesses like Starbucks and stuff like that. I remember that there was a time where Washington Heights was full of mom and pop coffee shops, right? That you could walk into and buy some of the best coffees in the city. And throughout the years, slowly but surely, even when this guy was mayor, de Blasio, a lot of those shops have started closing down for many different reasons. And I told them, I said, man, are you aware of the things that you're supporting? Are you seeing how this can damage the community? And we had a back and forth online, and he was asking me like, hey, because I compare socialism to communism, and he was like, oh, that's propaganda, blah, blah, whatever. But the point that I was trying to make is Merrill lives in Jersey, but he don't live in New York anymore. He has family in New York, but he lives in Jersey, and he's obviously somebody with influence from New York City. And then ironically enough, about maybe a week after, a report came out that Mamdani was paying influencers to walk with him through neighborhoods and to promote him. So then I started asking him like, hey, how much was the check? Because you weren't talking about politics till this guy started running for mayor. I'm just trying to like see the authenticity of people that have a certain amount of influence when it comes to New Yorkers. And then at the same time, show New Yorkers, hey, look, you can love somebody, you can support what they do, but you have to be very careful to what it is that these people are offering. And we need to be able to do our own research. Again, not everybody is able to do that, even with the access to iPhones and things like that. Me personally, I think it's lazy to not do research. Again, I understand everybody comes from different generations, but it's lazy to just take something by word and not do your own research. So I guess my question to you is, you just said that we have a wave of full-blown socialism coming, and for that reason, you believe it's going to take more than 10 years to flip the aspects of New York. So my question to you is, do you think that New Yorkers are, and I don't want to put you on the spot to criticize New Yorkers. I know you're trying to win an election, but do you believe New Yorkers are being naive? Do you believe that it's a matter of socialist policies and socialist ideologies being shoved into their necks to the point where they don't even have the opportunity to look elsewhere? What, in your opinion, what is it? Because I've been trying to figure it out, right? I'm somebody who my favorite subject in school was math. So I'm somebody that when things don't add up, it just doesn't add up. And I look for, and I'm not saying I'm the best researcher or anything like that, but I take the time to look for something that matters to me and my family. So what do you believe it is, if you don't mind me asking?
I think New Yorkers have lost hope in the system and they feel powerless. And I feel like that was honestly the goal of whoever's sitting at the table that we're not at, people who are quote unquote running the show. It was definitely planned for people to not be involved in politics and just take what they're given and be happy. So listen, New Yorkers, even though they're overwhelmingly voting Democrat, they don't have any real morale in that party. They don't really have any substance. They don't have it. They don't really have any reason why they're voting that way. They just,
Agreed.
oh, I heard in the news that this Mamdani guy, he's young and he's energetic. And okay, but what can he do for you? What
Right.
is it that he's gonna do? Oh, he's gonna make rent free or groceries free, free buses, free this and that. Okay, do you know how he's gonna do it? Oh no, but he's young and energetic. They flip the point back, and I don't blame them because they're so stuck in surviving, and this is why it's a perfect setup for socialism to come right now, is because people are so
Yep.
and struggling. Small businesses are closing down. Again, we're falling into a corporatocracy where Chick-fil-A, you see a Chick-fil-A on every block, you see a Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks,
Yep.
McDonald's,
Yep.
one of these places on every single block. One small business closed down, another big business goes up. So people are losing hope. They're flooding, or I'm sorry, they're fleeing away from New York, and it's just going to become the same thing. And I think that's a divide and conquer kind of thing where if you have the control of the money, New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Miami,
Chicago.
you have all of the socialism or the far left neoliberal policy in these big cities where all the money is controlled, and you have all the moderates and conservatives spread out all across the rest of the country.
Hmm.
Inevitably, it's going to be a scenario where socialism is, because they have all the money, those cities are going to stay exactly the same way. And the way the voting system works in America is the electoral college vote. Now, the same exact states where all the money is at, where they have these urban cities with 10 million people or more, it just so happens that the rest of the state is red, but where's the money controlled? Right there in that
In
epicenter.
that little blue area.
And all of a sudden, you get 26 votes here, electoral college, 20 here, 18 here, 15 there. It just piles up and it adds up and it adds up. But really, that's not reflective of how Americans feel, truly feel. Yeah, I think that's the system where people are just like, listen, there's too much to it. It doesn't benefit me. Politicians are going to say they're going to fix it. They're not going to fix it. I'm just
Hmm.
going to take what I can get. And as long as it's easy for me and I can be happy, feel free, everything is feeling nowadays in 2025. Feel,
Yep.
but you're not good. You're not stable. You're not happy. You're just looking for the next excuse to be like, oh, my life is so and so because, and Trump is the excuse now. And once he passes on 20, 30 years down the line, it's going to be another martyr. It's going to be another martyr,
Hmm.
another martyr, another excuse. And then when is it going to be that we're going to have academic or let's say civic revolution where people start getting engaged and all right, we're holding these people accountable. If there's nobody good, we're going to find somebody good and we're going to have them lead us into prosperity.
It's funny you say that because my partner now, my soon to be wife, she was somebody who leaned not extreme left, but she leaned left. She attended Black Lives Matter protests and things like that. And when we met, and she was in the same company as I was, she traveled to the same states that I was. And there's times where she would ask me, right, like, why do people support this kind of thing? Like why do people see that something doesn't work and still decide to not change? And I always tell her, like, you have to understand, there's people, and unfortunately, especially in New York City, that are going through 1,000 things in their life, right?
Mhm.
They have so many things going on in their life. And some people just point the finger to the biggest boogeyman that they could find, right? Whether that's government, whether that's Donald Trump, as you said, some people, and That could be for many reasons. Some people just lost hope in trying to find an answer. The next big boogeyman that they could blame, they have that there, and it makes them feel confident in their misery. Sadly, sometimes, and I'm not saying that these people can't be saved or you can't do nothing for them, but that's part of the reason why you see something like, for example, I've noticed that in my district especially, there's a lot of car theft, right? You have people stealing rims from cars in broad daylight, right? This has been going on for years. You could even say decades. And you would think that at some point people would say, man, you know what? We have to do something about this. We have to put more police in the streets, put more cameras, or whatever the solution is. We have to do something. And what I explained to her was just think about the New York City Council members, what they rep, who puts money into their campaign, and I'm obviously talking about transportation alternatives. Is that how you say it? Transalt?
Yeah, yeah. Uber pack.
Yes, yes. They put money into these council members to fill up our streets with bike lanes. They're taking away a parking spot, which parking has always been a headache in New York City. Now it's more like a migraine. Having these auto theft and these type of crimes benefits people that want the streets or want to convince people not to own cars, because obviously when it comes to socialism, they don't want you to own anything. Everything has to go through the state. They don't want you to own any type of property. So that is part of the game. And I believe that Donald Trump just recently announced that he was going to change the census to the point where now people that are here illegally won't be able to be counted on the census, which is part of the reason why some of these Democrats are able to maintain power. Because and I'm not sure if you're educated on it, but if you have a certain number of people in a district, you're able to run for office or you're able to have matching funds or something like that. I know it has something to do with being able to run. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you have any notes about that before I move on to the next topic or anything like that.
Yeah, listen, even following the money, you see a lot of straw donors, and it's been in the news actually circulating, about the straw donors where you could just have an address and then somebody that lives in Russia or Africa or China or wherever, they can come and they can give to your campaign, and it's a matchable contribution. So there's obviously a problem with the system, but what people don't know is that the CFB, which is the regulatory agency for all of that stuff, they can't do an investigation without anybody saying anything. So who are doing it, whether you're Democrat or Republican, they're not going to snitch on each other. It's
Right.
the same thing. Nobody knows the ins and outs of this intricate bureaucracy system or bureaucratic system. So nobody's going to do anything about it. That's pretty much what it is. It's like you complain, oh, woe is me. It's impossible. All hope is lost. No, you actually have the information right in front of your face. You just don't want to do anything about it because now you're afraid of the repercussions. I'm not afraid of the repercussions, so I'll say it how it is. You know what I mean? It's like, what are you going to do? Listen, I don't fear any of these people. I don't fear pretty much anything but God. So yeah, I'll end on that.
That's refreshing to hear, man, because God first. So yeah, so let's talk about a little more about the district that you're running. So I recently just discovered, which is pretty funny. I recently just discovered that before Farrah Lewis, the district was represented by Jumaane Williams. He's a socialist dream, right? He just recently won the public advocacy again, which I was a little surprised about that because I think the candidate that was running against him, I forgot her name, but she was really good. She was out there talking and meeting people, but he was able to win.
He didn't win yet.
Oh, November, the primary, but
he's our guy.
who's running against him in November again? You said her name? Gonzalo Durant. Yeah, Gonzalo. Yeah, I follow him. I know I'm hoping to get him here to speak as well. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, so the district was represented by Jumaane Williams, who's a full-blown out. I don't think he's even a socialist. I think he's a communist. Full-blown communist. Farrah Lewis, I don't know much about her, but I can only imagine she falls under the same umbrella. I have some stats here of the district that I did some research to show people what you want to change and what are some of the things that I guess motivated you to run it and represent the district. And I'll just read some stats for you and then you let me know if there's anything else you want to bring up. And I guess what are some steps that because at the end of the day, once you win, which I do believe you're going to win, once you win, you're going against a majority Democrat city council. And I understand that for certain bills and certain things to pass, it's like a collective thing. So, it's not going to be smooth sailing, which I know that's not going to stop you. But that's just some facts to throw out there. Real quick, I have here the rankings of District 45. I have
Yeah.
some of the rankings when it comes to murder, rape, robbery, and aggravated assault. The district is ranked 255th out of 307 when it comes to violent crime safety. And specifically, they rank 268 when it comes to murder, 221st when it comes to rape, and 195 when it comes to robbery, and 252nd when it comes to aggravated assault. So it's just those stats alone can make somebody panic. I'm in District 37 if I'm not mistaken, but I'm not too far from there. We don't the difference is not it's not too much. Reading those stats, what are some of the things that you are going once you're in there that you're going to, I guess, bring to the table? And the second part of that question is I do understand that there are some, I'm trying to think the name of it, but I know there are some groups within city council that are responsible for certain things. For example, I know that there's a group that's responsible for the New York City parks and making decisions for that. I know that there's a group that's responsible for the hospitals and things like that. So out of those groups, what are you more interested in having impact in? Obviously, hearing you speak, I know if you could put your hand on everything, I know you would. But specifically for your district and for the benefit of your district, what are some of the things that you're willing to do, and what are some areas that you are looking to focus on more than others?
East Flatbush definitely sticks out to me as a place that really needs some help. There were a couple of different segments, so I'll get to every one.
Yeah.
When I'm in City Hall, I plan to be a part of the Common Sense Caucus and also
My favorite caucus.
small business and development. Those are
Nice.
definitely two of the ones that are really appealing to me. But as far as coming back to the district, looking at those stats, I see a lot of problems stemming from East Flatbush near me in Ditmas Park. You have a little
Mm.
problem here and there by the transit hotspots, I would say. Go into the private houses, $1 million homes, you don't see that reflective very much. And then one of the things that I want to do, and it's part of my public safety platform, is reduce recidivism. Now, if you don't know what recidivism is, it's the likelihood of an offender to repeat. So, how are we going to do that? First and foremost, the biggest thing that I want to accomplish in my district is to educate. I want to educate people on different aspects of life because politics, you can't touch everything. Again, people
No.
who are working 9 to 5, sometimes 5 to 9, working 2, 3 jobs, they don't have the capacity to understand all of that. So I want to educate on a basic level where people are simply able to understand the things going on around them and how it affects them. So reducing recidivism, we have to educate people. Okay, when you get out of jail, let's say presumably you're serving a sentence. When you get out of jail, I'm not in control of what they do in the jails as far as education or getting a GED, associate's degree,
Yeah.
but I am in charge of holding community groups accountable for those things and actually giving funding to those things. I think there's a lot of nonprofits out there that are underfunded and they just don't get the resources because they're not profitable enough to the next political election. So getting into the community and educating people, okay, do you want to start a business? Do you have a specific trade that you want to get into? Bringing kids out and bringing them into trade schools if they want to become mechanics, if they want to become electricians, engineers, that's going to be a big part of it and getting deep into my community. You said this thing where it's going to be hard against a Democratic City Hall. I would basically say I don't need them because every
Mm.
law that I'm going to do or every single piece of legislation that I want to introduce, the people are going to see it. It's public record. And that's a part of the education aspect where, hey, listen, this is what I'm proposing on behalf of my constituents. This is what they asked for, and this is what I'm going to introduce because all across the city it could be used. And if they say no to that, you understand what's at stake for them
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
now the people are educated and they can make an informed decision. And we're inspiring the next generation of leaders to either come up in the Democratic or Republican Independent Party, and they're going to be leading and coming into the next election, and we're going to be supporting them, the leadership of the new era. We're going to be supporting them as well. Me and my partners, other leaders. It's going to be a very grassroots a grassroots movement as it already is. So I know I broke down a lot. I know people are probably getting tired of
Oh, man,
breaking it down, but just to be very transparent and clear what we're going to do, we're going to partner with all of the different organizations and different leaders that have been silenced because they don't want to go with the system. They don't want to just go with the flow and do what everybody else is doing and nothing gets done. We're starting a movement where whether you're a progressive, whether you're conservative, straight, moderate, doesn't really matter. We're going to allow you to advocate for your people as long as they're educated in what they're doing. Because there's no, it's my official position that there's no one way to get things done. And whether you fall in one of these political ideologies, progressivism, liberalism, conservatism, there's no one way to get things done. And New York is a place that it operates like different countries almost. Like Fort Greene
Yeah.
is very different from Brighton Beach, which is very different from Sunset Park and Red Hook and all these different places. And you have demographics that are going to lean heavily in one direction and heavily in the other. So that tells you that there's no one way to get things done, but right now nothing is getting done. Absolutely nothing. So let's band together and say, restore bipartisanship and say, hey, listen, we're here for the people. We're here to get things done. We're not here to debate left. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make
Yeah.
sense anymore. And that's going to be the impact that I have in City Hall. That, again, I'm not a politician. I'm not playing party politics. I can agree with a Democrat. I can agree with a Republican. I can co-sponsor a bill with either one as long as it's getting stuff done for the community. And that's my number one priority.
I think that's a trait that I've noticed that is, whether you lean left or right, I think that's something that a lot of people need to realize. That is, when it comes to somebody that represents your district, that is something that you need, right? Somebody that's able to work with all types of people, even people that they don't agree with. Because it's like you said, there's not one way of doing things. You have to be somebody who's, and I know we keep bringing his name up, but just look at Trump, right? Trump is not just working with Republicans. Trump is working with Democrats. He's working with independents. He's working with local law enforcement and things like that. So I think it's very important to know that, for people to know about you specifically, that you're willing to work with whoever in order to bring more prosperity to your district and to New York City overall. Because to be honest, yes, all these different places, they have different values, but we all, like, all the districts in New York City all go through the same thing when it comes to crime and when it comes to all the things that's going on. It's very refreshing to hear you say that, because even when I mentioned earlier that I don't have an affiliation with a certain party, that I believe with the current wave that's coming, I believe that's everybody's point of view, right? Where even if you're a Republican, Republicans tend to mess up here and then, and the same thing with the Democrats. So it's very refreshing to hear you say that. You did mention something about not being able to, you don't have the capacity to make the decision as a city council member. You don't have the capacity to make the decisions of what happens when, somebody comes out of jail and what resources they have available for them. And that has to do, and I'm mentioning that because I want to talk about just the political landscape of New York City. Because I do believe part of the reason why some people don't tap in as much is because it could be a little confusing to people. Even when you talk about city council, New York Assembly members, like, some people don't know that we have federal Senate seats and then we have local Senate seats, right? Some people don't know the difference. And some of the politicians that are in some of these seats, some people just don't know. So then it makes you think, who's actually voting these people in? One of the things that I noticed from the last city council election and even the primaries that we just had is that the voter turnout is extremely low, right? Compared to the registered voters, to the people that actually vote. Whether that comes from, as you said, not believing in the system, not believing in politics, I also believe it's because, as we keep mentioning, the options when it comes to conservative values is not there. And yes, we're a blue city. We're a city that's mostly liberal, but I do believe that even having that option of
Yeah.
noticing the difference would make a huge difference in our elections overall. So I'm glad that you're talking about education, because people do need to get educated on the political landscape of New York City, because, as I said, New York City represents a large majority of the world. Our budget is bigger than some countries. That tells you everything you need to know. My question to you is, when it comes to things like, let's say, and maybe you haven't, I know you're busy with your campaign. You've said that you have a whole team of people and you have partners and stuff like that. When it comes to positions like district attorneys, even the public advocacy that we spoke about, to educate the audience, what are some people that you can say, hey, I can vouch for this person because of XYZ? I feel like, especially when this airs, people are going to have a good idea of who you are and who you're going to be as a representative. Who can you say, or who can you refer to the audience to follow when it comes to those positions?
It seems like you're asking me to give my political endorsements right now as we speak.
Yeah, like I said, I don't mean to put you in this position, but listen, man, I'm really excited about you. I'm excited about some of the people that I mentioned before. So I think people just need to know that there are individuals that are willing to take the fight straight to the problem. So if you could, you don't even have to give a full details as to why. Just give us some names of people that you could say, hey, look, this person, if you're in this district, this person is for you, just so people have an idea.
Okay. All right. Hey, everybody already knows who I'm going to go with. Starting in Brooklyn, I have my sister in 46, actually. So if you're in Bergen Beach, Canarsie, let's see, what is that? Flatlands, Sheepshead Bay, I believe. District
Oh,
46. Look it up if you
I know
don't
who you're
know.
talking about.
Yeah. Athena Clark, definitely.
Yeah.
Athena Clark is definitely a great representative, a great leader, someone who I've grown very close with, and it's just it's a family at this point. Janine Aquafreda, Brooklyn Borough President, running against Antonio Reynoso. So if you're in Brooklyn in general, Janine Aquafreda, great person, really tough New Yorker, but she's gonna get things done. She's gonna be the best advocate that we have in that position
Nice.
going forward. So it's a no-brainer. You got to go with Janine if you're in Brooklyn. Let's see who else. The Bronx, my boy Tyreek Goodman, District 8. Now, the thing that's interesting about Tyreek too is he's still representing the hood from the hood. Like he's full-fledged, like he's with the community. And he's been doing business in the community and educating for the longest. And he's like a big bro to me. He showed me that was possible in a way. Like I watched him from afar as we clicked up on a business note. He was running for assembly. I believe it was last year, 2 years ago. And yeah, so I saw that was possible from him. So definitely those would be my big three right now.
Nice.
And yeah, it's
Sounds good.
and he's
Sounds
in the
good.
South Bronx, District 8.
District 8. Okay.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna refer him to my family members and friends out there. Like, hey, listen, we got an option. We got an option.
And Public Gonzalo Duran, Peter running for controller. Let's see who else around the city. I got to think. There's so many different
Yeah. Listen,
great people, but those are the top of my head, top 5.
that's good. That's good because it's you give too many names and it's gonna just throw people off. So I think with what you just gave is perfect. So appreciate that. Appreciate that. I'm gonna make sure I follow them as well. Trying to get them on and try to ask them, try to bring them more to people and put people in front of them and stuff like that. So that's really good. So I'm gonna say a word. I'm gonna mention a couple words and just give me a summary of what you think of that word or your position on it. Whether you want to make it a long, detailed description or you want to make it short, that's completely up to you. I don't have a time limit here.
All right, that's a fun little game. I like that.
Yeah, we gotta switch it up. We gotta keep it. We gotta keep the listeners entertained. Even this is a very serious topic we're talking about. We're obviously both passionate about this, but I do believe people do need to be entertained. So I'm gonna say a word. Like I said, you give me a description or your position on it, and then we'll just go from there. All right.
All right.
All right. So the first word is vaccines.
Ooh, vaccines. Sketchy.
Okay.
Sketchy.
Gotcha. Education.
Power.
Okay. All right. You mentioned this word before, but I'm going to mention it. Nonprofits.
Yeah. Bankroll.
Okay. You say that, but all right. Labor unions.
Ooh, let's see. I would say bureaucracy, and I'm gonna explain this one. For
Please do.
labor unions, it's grassroots CNNs. So it's like you have a lot of movements coming from those things. Even Mamdani with DC 37. How many votes is he gonna get from that? 200,000, maybe just alone. And it's, oh yeah, we're gonna back this guy. Oh, my union backed him. All right, I'll back him. Why? I don't know. The union backed him. So I'll say bureaucracy. There's a lot of different moving components to that one.
Yeah, I do believe labor unions are like being used as a political arm. You know what I mean? Like even when you pay attention to a lot of the protests that go on in the city, like these people. And I read somewhere where even if you don't agree, if some people get prosecuted for not being part of those protests and stuff like that. I agree with you on that. The MTA, one of my favorite kind of people to talk about.
Oh man, there's a billion different directions I could go. I'm trying to think of one that summarizes it.
Hey, listen, take your time. Like I said,
the MTA, I'm gonna just say that the MTA needs a complete reset. I think it's just it's the best and worst way to get it. You could get from Brooklyn to the Bronx in an hour, besides traffic.
Yeah.
Too. There's a strong possibility that you'll encounter a crackhead that may or may not stab you. for
Yeah.
absolute, and it's a hit or miss. It's
Yeah.
like Burlington or Marshalls. It's really, you go there and it's
You're right about that, man. Because
yeah.
listen, the other night I was working OT at my job. I work in 125th, so from 125th I come down here to Brooklyn. And listen, it was 11 o'clock at night, bro. And I usually work mornings, so I don't see a lot of this. It's a whole different world.
Oh, I got a word. I got a word. Gotham.
Yeah, Arkham. That's what I think it is. For
It's
sure,
Arkham.
for sure.
Actually, yeah, Arkham, the Arkham Asylum.
God,
Right?
yeah, Arkham, exactly. Yeah. Man, that's funny. That's funny. I guess this is a part B to that word, congestion pricing.
Money grab.
That's right. Scam.
Yep.
Let me ask you, in your opinion, do you believe that the MTA would function better if it was privately owned? Obviously, it all depends on who, but
As in not affiliated in contract with the city.
yeah, not a city government agency, more like whether it's a board or an owner. Do you believe that it can have the opportunity to be better if you had a person who?
I believe it's a private entity. It's not a city agency. I don't think it's contracted.
Oh, okay.
If it was privately, listen, it's
It's a trick because obviously it depends on who, is there and their agenda and stuff like that.
I don't think so. I don't think so because it's so damn profitable.
Yeah.
You're not gonna drop the toll prices from what
No way.
$12 all the way down to $2 just because you say you can't afford it. They really don't care. They're gonna give you a ticket regardless. You pass that camera, that's it. You paying.
Get it in the mail.
Pretty much.
Man, Mayor Adams.
Oh, come on, not this one.
I had to bring him up at some point.
Mayor Adams, man, yo, that
Have you met Mayor Adams? Have you had personal encounters with Mayor Adams by any chance?
I've been around him like in the circles. There was a Puerto Rican Day heritage that was at Gracie Mansion, so I went there. Eric Adams. He has so much influence in Brooklyn that really sad to see the way it all happened or the way it all went down. Listen, politically, I won't say that I agree with a lot of the stuff he's done. I don't agree with the city of Yes. I don't agree with firing of city workers for the vaccine mandates and backing down as the Biden of New York or the Biden of Brooklyn, whatever he said. So yeah, man, I would say that's unfortunate.
Gotcha. And last but not least, Curtis Sliwa.
Curtis Sliwa, I like Curtis Sliwa. He's what would I say? Oh, I gotta think of a word. Curtis Sliwa is New York, man. He really embodies that New York spirit. That it's like he's such a nice guy, but you would never know he got that firm demeanor, that firm face. But he's the guy you want to have in your corner. You gotta protect. You want Curtis Sliwa in your corner. You want Curtis Sliwa in your corner. So
he has a resume for it.
He's got the resume for it. People say that he doesn't have political experience, but I would disagree and say, listen, he didn't have the title, but he definitely had the will and he definitely had the influence. Regardless, you mentioned that beret, even kids my age know what that is. Yeah, definitely Curtis Lee was New York.
That's dope. All right, man. I think we hit a lot of topics. Obviously, this is not going to be the last time we do this. Maybe next time we do this in person in the studio where we can go over a lot of things. Is there anything you want to mention that we didn't talk about? Is there a message you want to give to the audience, to the people that you want them to know about you? Anything at all? Like I said, there is no time limit, so take as long as you want to. And the floor is yours.
Yeah, listen, the leadership of the new era, and I'm speaking to voters who are on the edge. I'm a Democrat, and I'm very scared to vote Republican, or I'm scared for this and that reason. I say, come and reach out to me, regardless of your political standing or ideology. Listen, I've spoken to and grown up with people who are quote unquote socialists now. And we think a lot of the same different things. It's just, again, two sides of the same coin. Where are you coming from? Where am I coming from? And even as a conservative, or I wouldn't even say conservative because now there's a stigma behind that word. So I'm going to go with constitutionalist. I believe in the Constitution of the United States. And if you want to know what I mean, then read it. I believe in preserving that law and order, just as I believe in preserving God's books, the Bible, the Torah. Yes. I believe in that kind of thing where it's like you don't ask too many questions. You just serve in the name of God or in the name of human rights, so to speak. So that's definitely a message that I want to portray, is that this is a movement. Leadership of the new era is only the beginning of a political revolution where the people are the priority and people are represented in this government and in the streets that has absolutely nothing to do with the government. We want to develop leaders. Leaders are not built in the school system right now. Leaders are not built in the political system. Leaders are not built in the jail system. Leaders are not built in any system right now that we have in this government, in this society, and we're going to change that. We are changing that already. It's been a great campaign so far, and I'm excited to keep going. We got about 90 days now, a little less than 90 days, election. And despite the results, we're going to keep pushing forward. We have a steady direction, and we need resources and people, good people, to come forward and have that opportunity. And we're opening the doors for any person. If you're a person who believes that you can make a change and you didn't believe that before, now you have that opportunity. Come hit me up at Diaz for Brooklyn on social media, diazforcitycouncil.com. And even you can hit me on my phone number, 917-517-4494. That's my direct line. I'm putting it out there for the whole public.
That's bold. That's bold.
Yeah, I'm very transparent. 917-517-4494. If anyone has an issue that they'd like to talk to me about, listen, if you don't like anything that I said on this podcast, let me know. Let's have a discussion about it. Because transparency is my number one goal, to be a transparent leader, get out in the community and do the work with my bare hands, and bring people with me as well to do that. I shouldn't be the end all be all. As your council person, I should not be above anyone. I should be your public servant. I should be your representative, and I should be the person you come to for anything that needs to be done within your community. And that's exactly who I am. It's exactly who I'll be. And if you don't believe me, then call me. You have my phone number now.
That's good.
So for sure, this is a movement. I'm extremely proud of my team. I'm extremely proud of the campaign and what we're accomplishing just at our young ages and our limited experience within a political field, but we have expertise in leadership. So that's a beautiful thing. So really just reaching out to the public and opening the doors for them to and see what opportunities are open for them. That's my final message here.
That's good, man. Listen, you can't get more transparent than that. All right. And I think you're going to do great. You're amazing. Like I said, I've been watching you for a couple months. So for anybody listening, I can vouch. This is the guy, even if you're not from the district, this is the guy that you want to follow. This is the guy that you want on your corner. Is there any upcoming events that you have where people can maybe, if they want to meet you in person, they can come see you or anything like that that we know of?
Not yet, but I would say again, go to my social medias for the update. As soon as I find out about something or I have my flyers ready to go, everybody knows at once. diazforcitycouncil.com. Again, I do my best to update it as much as possible. And so all of the updates from that is where you can find it. There's one thing though that is a priority. It's a back to school supply drive. I've been funding that on my own as well, and different people in the community, even all across Brooklyn. We're really banding together to get those resources out to the kids this year, because it's really tough for families.
Yeah.
This economy and the inflation, it's really tough. So anything you can give, you can donate money, you could give notebooks, pens, pencils, folders, computers if you'd like, and you can reach out to me and I'll be facilitating all of that. And the supply drive should be the last week of August. I don't have a date yet, but you'll be able to see that on my socials.
All right. We'll keep the audience updated on that. Elijah, again, man, you're amazing. I believe in you. I think you're going to do great. Anything you need from me to help you out, obviously, this is not the last conversation we're going to have. We're obviously going to do this again. And God bless, man, and Godspeed.
Absolutely. Appreciate you.